if people can hear me, I'll just give you a brief and quick overview of MHCET. So I just read some of the questions that you guys have posted, and I would say that at this stage, any mock test series that you take, whether it's ours or whether it's from other coaching institutes, should not be such a big issue because more or less the papers are similar. The general feedback for our mocks is that they are slightly tougher compared to the other mocks. This is something that has definitely been done deliberately, keeping in mind the scenario that if you practice on easy mocks out here and if the actual mock is tougher, because if I don't know if any of you have attempted bank exams, the body conducting MHCET this year. Okay, guys, I'll just repeat the question again. As I've said, a lot of people here are saying, sir, are your mocks tough? Should we take test panda? What we've done is we've deliberately kept them 10 to 20% tougher than what everyone else has. There is a reason behind this. IBPS is the body conducting the mocks this year, like last year. And the trend that we've seen in bank exams is that the difficulty level has kept increasing each year. So for instance, this year's or last year's IBPS paper was much tougher compared to the previous year's paper. I am not saying that MHCET will be tougher. So please do not put this in your mind that MHCET will be tougher compared to last year. However, we are just preparing you for the eventuality that in case you get a slightly tougher paper, you are mentally prepared for it. I will now start taking the questions as I see them. So there are a lot of people here. I'll just start with the questions that I'm seeing. So in case I've missed out a question, just type it again and we can, I'll always come back to this. Okay. So Nisarg's question is tips from going from 130 to 150. Okay, Nisarg, if you are already at 130, then going to 150 should not be such a big issue. If you look at those questions that you attempted seriously and went wrong, once you start identifying these questions and look at your reasons to get these questions wrong, you'll find at least 4 or 5 where you made silly mistakes or marked the wrong answer because you were pressed for time. So that will help you increase your marks by approximately 5 to 6 marks everywhere. Secondly, you need to look at those questions that you marked blindly. When you look at those questions, you will find anywhere between 8 to 12 questions that are questions that were easy to solve, but you missed them in the first attempt, so had to just mark them blindly at the end. This way, if you look at it, I can easily guarantee that rectification of your mistakes plus identifying easy questions that you mark blindly will increase your marks by 15 straight away. So you will need to go back to the mocks that you have attempted and do this analysis. Put these 2 types of questions in 2 tables. So let's assume you've taken 6 mocks so far. Look at mock number 1 to mock number 6, and then for each mock, try and identify number of questions falling in this category. You'll easily come to know where you can increase your marks by at least 10 to 15. It might even go up to 20. Okay, Rima's question is time allotment, please. By the time I reach abstract, which I assume is visual reasoning, the time is over. Okay, Rima, what you need to do is you don't necessarily need to attempt the paper in chronological order or in sequential order. That is assuming the first section first, second section second. That's one thing. Secondly, the way I approach MHCET is I divide the paper into 5 parts in terms of time. You have 150 minutes in your hand, 150. So guys, I would want all of you to listen to this time allocation. Of course, there is no hard and fast rule, but this is something that I recommend to students. So what you can do is, if you have 150 minutes for the whole paper, I keep aside 15 minutes, 15 minutes for blind marking at the end of the paper. So that is something I will look at only at the end of the paper. This can be increased to 10, 20 minutes also. But abhi ke liye just assume it's 15 minutes. Now the remaining 135 is to be split between 4 sections. Considering that LR has 75 questions plus the difficulty level of LR is also slightly higher, I typically keep anywhere between 70 to 75 minutes for the LR section. This is also because personally I am very strong at LR and it has a lot of group questions, so it gives me a lot of marks. If you feel that you want to allocate more time for verbal or quant, that is entirely your call. But I personally keep approximately 70 minutes for LR. I then keep roughly 20 odd minutes, 20 minutes approximately for verbal, because verbal in MHCET is on the easier side. There are a lot of group questions. Plus, you'll be easily able to attempt 35 to 40 questions if you select the right question type. So I keep approximately 20 minutes for verbal, so which takes the total to 90. Then I keep 25 minutes for quant or 20 minutes for quant depending on my understanding of the paper. And I keep 15 minutes for visual or abstract reasoning. That is the breakup that I have with so that's 20, 20, 15, 55 and another 75 or 70. So if you take 70 and 65, then you can even take it to 70 for LR, 25 for quant, that's 95, and 20 each for verbal and abstract. That way you can divide 135 minutes. आखिर के 15 minute में you can mark all the questions that you are not sure of. Please add plus or please have a buffer of plus or minus 5 minutes for each of these sections, depending on your independent strengths and weaknesses. Okay, Girish's question is, and I'll take Girish and there's somebody called AJ. So both have questions. What are the tips for quant section and what are the important topics? So Girish, I'll give you a very quick update on the quant section. You have 50 questions. Typically out of these 50 questions, 15 to 20 questions will be based on DI. These questions are more or less calculation intensive. So it's not CAT level or SAT level DI. It's reasonably simple in terms of concept, but there is a lot of calculation involved. To crack the DI of MHCET, you need to focus like percentages, ratio proportion, percentage growth, averages, etc. So this is 15 to 20 questions. Then you have 5 questions on data sufficiency. These are reasonably simple. You have 5 questions on quantitative comparison. What I mean by that is if you're given 2 statements and you need to find out which of the statements has a higher value. And then so this is slightly like a GRE question type. And then finally you have, sorry, anywhere between 20 to 25 questions which are based on pure maths. Within pure maths, what are the chapters that are important? These chapters are all the chapters of arithmetic, that is averages, ratio proportion, percentages, profit and loss, simple and compound interest, mixtures and alligation, then time and work, time and distance. Apart from arithmetic, the other important chapters would be linear and quadratic equations, some concepts of numbers, some basic concepts of geometry, mensuration will be very important. PNC is important, probability is important. So you might wonder, I have nearly mentioned everything in maths, but that is the fact. It follows the bank model. So you'll have one question from each. That is where I typically prefer going to DI and getting more marks there rather than, especially if I've not studied too much of maths. If I'm good at maths, then it doesn't have any I don't have any problem solving maths whatsoever. Deepen, your question is, sir, can you specify the section-wise time strategy? So, Deepen, I just answered that question sometime back. In case you have the question again, you can okay, 2-3 people have this question. Deepen, Omkar, Meeti also has the same question, how to target the test. So, as I said, I mentioned the time strategy. I'll just repeat it quickly. approximately 65 to 70 minutes for LR, anywhere around 25 minutes for maths, and 20 minutes each for verbal as well as abstract, that is visual reasoning. The last 15 minutes can be kept aside for marking the questions that you have not seen, or for the blind marking, the random marking that you need to do. Now, in terms of strategy that Meeti has asked, Meeti, what you need to do is from now till the next week, let's say till Thursday or so, you need to see attempting which section first, or what section sequence is giving you the maximum number of marks, or more than maximum number of marks, you need to focus on a parameter called serious attempts. Now guys, remember that in MHCET, you have no choice. You need to attempt all 200 questions, right? So the key to getting more marks is the number of serious attempts compared to total attempts. That is the ratio that is critical. With 200 questions to sab karne hi wale. But if you have 150 serious attempts versus somebody who has only 110, your probability of getting higher marks is straight away 20 to 30% higher than the other guy. So your practice from now till next week has to be focused on, not on marks. Right now, if you guys tell me I'm getting a score of 105, I'm getting a score of 110, I would say, good, you're getting that score, but forget that score. I'm not bothered at your score. My first question to you would be, what is the number of serious attempts that you have? I mean, attempts where you are, let's say, 85 to 90% sure that I've marked the right answer. Because two people can get the same score. One person can have 100 right and 100, tukka attempts and still get 120. The other person can have 150 and still get 120. So that does not really make a difference. आपके जितने ज़्यादा तुक्के attempts होंगे, उतना आपका score vary कर सकता है. Focus on serious attempts. So coming back to your original question, if you attempt various sections in different sequences, किसी दिन LR पहले किया, किसी दिन Quant पहले किया, from now up till Thursday, you will get a much better idea of which combination of sequences is allowing you to attempt maximum number of serious questions. That should be your strategy for the final exam. Please keep this thing in mind, and please finalize this strategy roughly by Wednesday or Tuesday, so that the last 2 mocks that you attempt, Wednesday and Thursday, will be based solely on this strategy. तो आज फ्राइडे है, आज से लेके ट्यूसडे तक you can keep experimenting. But on Wednesday and Thursday, the mocks that you attempt should be strictly based on your analysis of your strengths. So if you feel LR is good, start with LR. You feel abstract is good, start with abstract. इसके अंदर भी एक complication है. A lot of people say, sir, should I attempt the group questions first? Should I attempt the individual questions first? Should I go about in a mixed manner? I would say go absolutely as per your strength and your convenience. I personally, when I sit to solve MHCET, I start with the arrangements and sit and attempt all 30 of them at one go. That is my style. And anyways, I don't have anything to lose. So you can't blindly say that just because somebody who topped MHCET last year has told us that मैं ये करता हूँ तो हम भी ये करेंगे. No, not at all. You look at what suits you more. If you feel that you are better off solving, let's say DI, start with DI. उसके बाद you can always go back to LR. Secondly, within one section, please have a very quick look, maybe 2 minutes or 3 minutes at the most, but at the kind of questions asked. One of the oldest tricks of the MHCET guys is to have a couple of easy sets towards the end of the section. So I'm not saying directly jump to the end of the section. No. Look at the entire section, and on your scratch pad or on the notepad that they give you, start marking the question numbers, writing the question numbers that look easy. You know, MHCET में या किसी भी एग्जाम में कोई क्वेश्चन होता है जो देख के पता चलता है हाँ ये इजी है, और कोई क्वेश्चन होता है जो देख के पता चलता है कि नहीं, this is not something very easy, I need to spend time. So in the let's say you're looking at LR, look at those 75 questions and you see something on sentence coding, easy लग रहा है, mark it 31 to 35. You see a set on floor arrangement, easy लग रहा है 40 to 45, whatever it is. Start marking those numbers and start attempting those questions so that you've started gaining marks you've used your time wisely, and your confidence starts building up. You need to look at a section before you start attempting it. This is a rule for each exam, but more important for MHCET simply because you have too many questions to look at. Mandar's question is, what should be the sequence of sections? Well, Mandar, I just said some time back that you can have any sequence that you like. It is solely based on your strengths and weaknesses. The mocks that you take from now up to Tuesday will decide what sequence you want. Wednesday and Thursday, you need to practice with your final sequence. It's like a dress rehearsal. वो plays में होता है that you practice without the actual costume till a certain limit, but last 2 or 3 days you practice with the costume and the props, etc. So that is what you need to do here. Jivitesh, I just answered your question on the strategy to start the exam. So as I said, you take whichever section you like, spend 2 to 3 minutes scanning the section for the easiest questions, and then you move on to how to, actually answering the questions. Okay, I just a second. So I answered Jivitesh's question. Then, guys, okay, beach mein people were saying that the audio had gone. I assume people are able to hear me now. Okay, Abhijit, your question is, I just said this, but my mock score is between 110 to 115. Is it wise to attend all the questions? Abhijit, it is compulsory. In my opinion, you have to go out and mark all 200 questions. There is no negative marking in CET. So you have absolutely no reason why you should leave even a single question. कुछ भी छोड़ने की जरूरत नहीं है. Go to the exam. Increase your serious attempts to approximately 150 or 160. 160 हो गया तो damn good. But 150 तक serious को खींचो. बाकी अगर तुक्के मारने पड़े तो चलेगा. But attempt each and every question. Sridhar, so Karthik, I assume this answers your question as well. Should we attempt all 200 questions? Yes. About how many should be genuinely attempted without guesses? As I said, I used to target 150 to 160. It depends on your personal strength also. But I would say definitely not less than 140. 140 ke niche gaye, then your score will start taking a big hit. Sridhar's question is, will the answer with mark for review be considered for evaluation? Sridhar, any answer that you have marked and clicked on save and next will be considered for answer evaluation. So there is a save and next button unless you click that. Because see, there are two ways in which you can move from one question to the next. Let's say you are on question 5, you mark answer option 2. And then there is a button at the side where you can directly click and go to 6. If you have not done save and next, the database will not accept your answer. It will just leave it hanging. At the end of the test, it might accept it. So for every question that you answer, click on save and next, go to the next question. बाद में आगे जाके जो भी question पे click करना है कर सकते हो. This also applies to questions that are marked for review. I would suggest have a look at the notification given by the DTE authorities. This entire aspect is given in great detail by those guys. So I look at it in detail once again. Satyam's question is how to go for quant, important areas to cover. Should we do quant in the last 40 minutes? Satyam, I'll answer your questions one by one. You can do quant whenever you want. If you feel that you're better off doing quant at the end, you can do quant in the last few minutes or last 40 minutes. I personally don't think you need 40 minutes for quant. Half an hour on the outer side is more than sufficient. But still, if you take 40 minutes for quant, somewhere you need to cut time from some other section. So that you'll need to take a call that which section will lose time. Okay. But otherwise, 30 minutes for quant is more than sufficient. You can do it whenever you want. Important areas to cover. So as I said, definitely DI, because you can expect 15 to 20 questions. 5 questions on DS. So practice DS. 5 questions on quantitative comparison. Practice that. The remaining 20 odd questions are from various chapters in maths. So you can attempt the ones that you are most comfortable with. Nearly every chapter is covered. So if you're going to sit today and revise those chapters, then I would say focus on DI, DS and quantitative comparison. It will easily earn you 25 to 30 marks. Then for the rest, you need to look at what you like. Snehal's question is, speed is the most important thing. Please guide for speed improving techniques. Okay. Snehal, firstly, I don't completely agree with you. Speed is important, but accuracy is equally important. A lot of people are under the misconception that MHCET is purely a speed test. No, MHCET is also an accuracy based test. As I said, the most important thing probably is how many questions have you attempted extremely seriously. And when I say extremely seriously, means 85 to 90% accuracy rate pe, where you are fairly confident कि मेरा question सही है. If you can increase that ratio, your marks will keep going up. Then the remaining whatever 60, 50, 40, 70, जो भी है, remaining questions that you have blindly marked, you can always assume a 15-20% correct का ratio. क्या ठीक है, तुक्का लग के भी इतना तो आ ही जाएगा. तो जितना आपका serious attempts बढ़ेगा, उतना आपका score बढ़ने का chance है. If you focus only on speed, then you will start making errors. Who are the people who can focus on speed? There are people like, say, me or Patrick D'Souza sir or all the other people who keep taking these exams because we are so strong in our concepts that we can now look at solving questions in multiple ways and say, okay, how do I solve it in 30 seconds instead of 1.5 minutes? Okay. So it's like saying there is a batsman who knows how to play 3 shots to 1 ball. So then we improvise and say, what do I do to get the maximum outcome from this shot? But if you are at a stage where where you are good at playing only 1 shot at a ball, then learn to master that first. So I would say, yes, speed is important. Practice more questions for that. Take more mocks for that. But focus more on accuracy and question correctness rather than just speed. Avinash's question is, my English section is the strong part, but since test funda English is tough, I can't pull my score in that section. IBPS makes English easier. Yes, Avinash, our English is slightly tougher, but if the exam is at IBPS bank level, then you can easily expect 25 to 30 marks. And I will tell you the sections that are typically easy in MHCET. Close passages is easy. Mark the error is easy. 1 or 2, both RCs generally are easy. So 20 mark to wahi pe ho gaye. Jumbled sentences is easy to moderate. And then you have a few synonym, antonym, fill in the blank, etc. So ye itna to generally easy hota hi hai. Then depending on the other questions, you might need to decide. Okay, there is Prachi's. Okay, Prachi is back. Prachi has her exam on the first day, so all the best, Prachi. Will that affect scores in case of normalization? People having slots on the next day get an idea about the difficulty level, so they might score more. Prachi, aisa kuch nahi hota. There is nothing of this sort. People get idea of the difficulty level. So yes, they are slightly mentally prepared. Better. I don't disagree with that people are slightly better prepared mentally. But there is no actual preparation that they'll be able to do better. Let's assume that you are in the day 1 first slot. In fact, you are. So on your first slot, first day thing, assume that you got a very easy set on circular arrangement and a very difficult set on floor arrangement. Is there any guarantee? Now my slot is day 2 first slot. Let's assume I contact you on day 1 and say, Prachi, this exam mein kya aaya? If you tell me that circular was very easy, linear was very tough, is there any guarantee that I'm going to get the same thing? No, correct? So that is the big issue, that people start expecting certain things, that this will follow this trend, that will follow that trend. You might have a paper which has very difficult arrangement questions. I might have a paper which has easy arrangement and very difficult input-output questions. So those guys who are making the paper would have some algorithm which sort of scales the marks of all the people. You just need to focus on your particular test. You don't need to focus on any other test. And anyways, the outcome or the questions of the other test are not in your control. So focus on what you are going to face. Try and get the maximum marks in your particular test. Sanket's question is reached up to 110 marks. How to reach up to 140? LR is strong. So Sanket, and you said how much time should be allocated to AR. I assume you are referring to abstract reasoning. So Sanket, I would say abstract reasoning, I typically keep 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that. Simply because in the exam, I feel abstract reasoning puts a lot of pressure on my brain and I generally don't like solving it. So even though I can solve all those questions, I don't like to solve it in the exam. So I focus more on LR, quant, verbal, gain maximum marks out of that. That's my call. Apart from that, 15 to 20 minutes is generally sufficient. In terms of the scores, as I told you, you can actually focus more on serious attempts rather than scores. So you pick up the mocks that you have attempted and create a table for each section, quant, verbal, abstract and logical. And in the columns you start putting के कितने क्वेश्चन ऐसे थे जो आपने ढंग से अटेम्प्ट किए. Let's say quant है 50 questions. Out of these 50, how many did you actually attempt? Let's say 45. Out of these 45, how many did you seriously try to solve? When I say serious attempts, how many did you try to solve? Let's say 30. ये 30 में देखो how many did you get right? That will determine your accuracy rate. Once you get that accuracy rate, you have a clear picture कि I am attempting 30, but उसमें I am going wrong. So you know where am I going wrong. Or with there will be certain sections जहाँ पे आप 40 attempt करते हो, but 40 में nearly सारे आपने seriously attempt किए. Whereas there's the other section जिसमें वापस 40 attempt किए, quant और verbal, but 40 में से खाली 15 या 17 serious थे, बाकी तुक्के थे. So the entire approach to analyzing the two sections becomes different. So you need to do this analysis at a section by section level for 2-3 mocks. That will give you a very clear picture of where you need to improve in the next week. So do this analysis today and tomorrow. Today we are already, halfway through or more than halfway through Friday. So today and tomorrow do this analysis for at least 2 to 3 mocks and decide a strategy up to Tuesday. Based on that strategy, practice 1 mock each on Wednesday, Thursday. No mocks to be practiced on Friday. अगर आपकी exam Saturday को है. If your exam is on Sunday, then no mocks on Saturday. Last day of the exam, please don't practice mocks. Okay, Deepak is asking me how much have I scored while solving mocks. Deepak, to be honest, I stopped solving mocks 10 years back when I was preparing for MHCET as a student. I'll tell you my actual MHCET score when I entered JBIMS. I had scored 170 out of 200. Okay. But the papers used to be slightly simpler compared to what you're seeing today. The flip side was that we had a 200 question ka OMR sheet. So we used to waste a lot of time marking those circles in the sheet. But yeah, I did score that much. To give you my actual scores for the last 2 years, I think last year my score was 152. So I was one of the 8 or 9 people who were the 99.99 or 100 percentilers. The year before that, my score was approximately 144 or 145. Again, it was a 99.5 plus score or something of that sort. So typically, yes, I end up scoring anywhere above 140. उतना मैं कर लेता हूँ आज भी. Snehal's question is, are the questions mixed or are they different sections? Snehal, earlier, they used to be mixed. MHCET was one bhelpuri of a paper, 200 questions, some quant, some LR, etc. Since last year, they've introduced this concept of sections. 75, 50, 50, 25. So that is how they have distributed the paper. Okay, Abhijit's question is, prep is fine. what to do during the actual exam. How do you manage to score 150 last year despite it being the toughest CT? Okay, Abhijit, let me tell you two, three facts. One is, see, if you look at it from my perspective, I have nothing to lose. Suppose I end up scoring even a zero, okay, I can always go to students and say, मैं तो analysis के लिए पेपर देता हूँ, मैं marks के लिए पेपर ही नहीं देता, right? So I have nothing to lose. Yes, I try and score as much as possible because I want to, give it a serious attempt and see, okay, as a student, how is the paper? That is why I end up giving it seriously. And obviously, these marks help me sit in front of you and give you gyan. Had I scored zero, none of you would be listening to me. So that is a big help. But otherwise, yes, this is one thing. So what happens is I keep experimenting with question types ki ye attempt karu, wo attempt karu, etc. Secondly, I have a very clear knowledge of where I am strong and where I am not strong. So for instance, what I do in the mocks, as I said, is I start with the group questions. उसमें भी I start with arrangements. So एक साथ 40-45 मिनट बैठ के मैं सारे arrangement कर देता हूँ. I get 30 marks at one go. Then I go to DI. Another 15-20 minutes, I end up solving the 4 sets of DI. So I know that when 70 minutes are over, I already have 60 marks in my bag. And I'm sure that I've done well here. Then I get bored of LRDI. I'm frustrated with the paper. So I go to verbal. For another 20-25 minutes, I sit and solve the whole verbal section. Fresh ho jata hu. I get another 50 marks, 40-ish marks out of that. Then I come to maths and start solving the maths questions that I like. So I treat it more like a game. Okay, how to navigate this and how to get more marks. As far as you guys are concerned, you cannot take it so casually. So you need to have an understanding. But of course, even I don't take it casually. I am aware of what sequence of sections keeps me fresh, allows me to focus for 2.5 hours and gives me the best marks. ये मैं जितना भी बोल रहा हूँ कि I do this, it's not out of time pass. It's out of a lot of practice where I know very clearly that this type of question, if I attempt first versus last, my probability of answering it increases. That is where I'm coming from. So I never attempt English first because I'm anyways good at it. So मैं कभी भी करूँगा, I know I'm going to get those marks. So I do it when my concentration is going down. I do LR first because I know कि ये मैं fresh हूँ, तभी जितना हो जाएगा उतना अच्छा है. तो again, this is my strengths and weaknesses. You need to identify yours. That is the secret behind whatever marks I get. Okay, Deepen's question is, should we attempt RCs in verbal? Deepen, I would say based on what the IBPS has asked in its exams, I would say definitely you should attempt RCs in verbal. IBPS के RCs इतने tough नहीं होते. Typically, they are based on contemporary issues. You might have 5 questions or 10 questions. If you have 10 questions, your RCs will, if you have 10 questions, you'll have 6 factual questions or 4 factual questions, 2 inferential questions and 4 vocabulary questions. Within the RC, there might be a group of words or 4 separate words that are highlighted. Bold करके रखा हुआ होता है. And then you need to find the synonym or antonym for that word with reference to that passage. Remember that important part. तो यहाँ पे आप easily 10 में से 6-7 marks score कर सकते हो. Similarly, if you have a 5 question RC, you can easily score 3 marks because 2 to 3 questions are always factual in the IBPS RCs. So I would say please attempt both RCs unless you get something from a very vague topic. कुछ high fund to philosophy आ गया या sociology आ गया तो ठीक है, तो don't attempt. But otherwise, it's generally contemporary issues. Please go ahead and attempt. Okay, Sonali's question is, when will JB release its selection procedure? Well, Sonali, right now, officially, even we are not aware of this. And in fact, nobody is aware. So there is a lot of discussion going behind the scenes between the JB authorities and the DT authorities, etc. JB wants to have a group exercise followed by personal interviews. Last 2 साल से because of the CET schedule, they have not been able to do GDPI. and that affects credibility, that affects student quality, etc. So they desperately want to do GDPI, and the MHCET authorities don't want to do GDPI because वो फिर सबके लिए करना पड़ता है. Thing is, JB now has autonomy. So because it has autonomy, it is in a much stronger position to push DTE and Mumbai University to allow it to do GDPI. So if you ask me personally, I would say chances है कि GDPI हो या कुछ तो ऐसा प्रोसेस हो. बट वो रिलीज मुझे लगता है MHCET रिजल्ट के आसपास ही होगा, अभी से नहीं होगा. आई वुड से डोंट अज्यूम एनीथिंग कि उसमें कितने मार्क्स होंगे, क्या होगा, क्या प्रोसेस होगा. जस्ट चक इट. अभी के लिए अज्यूम करके चलो कि दिस टेस्ट इज व्हाट आई हैव. ओके, तो ये टेस्ट के बेसिस पे ही एडमिशन होने वाला है, ऐसा अभी अज्यूम करके चलो. बाद में अगर GDPI है तो विल टैकल इट डिफरेंटली एट दैट टाइम. Avinash, you're saying I'm scoring 113 in the last 2 mocks. So what do I increase to my score to 135? Avinash, I repeated this 2-3 times. I'll just say it very quickly. You'll need to look at all 4 sections for your last 2 mocks and see where you have maximum number of random attempts or tukka attempts. See where your accuracy is the lowest and work on these 2 areas to improve them. Even if you have an improvement of 5% in both these areas across all 4 sections, आप 5% से बढ़ाते जाओगे, your score will increase. Secondly, if you're scoring 113 in our mocks, I would say this is approximately equivalent to 125 to 128 in the actual CET. So then you are a borderline case, close to 135. Secondly, if you're leaving all the puzzles in LR, then that's not the best strategy because not all puzzles in LR are tough. Some of them are reasonably easy also. So then in those papers, go back to LR and see which puzzles were easy and you ended up not attempting them. Sneha and Mandar both have questions on, okay, wow. Sneha, Mandar, Martand all have questions on what should be the order of sections. Guys, there is no fixed order, please. As I said, my specific order is LR, verbal, quant, abstract reasoning. You need not have this specific order. You can start with any section that you like. You need not even think about it कि मैं एक section चालू किया तो पूरा करके ही हटूंगा. You can do verbal for 15 minutes, go back to LR, go back to quant. जो strategy आपको सूट करे. कौन सी strategy सूट करेगी ये मैं अभी से नहीं बता सकता. That is something only you would know. Even your faculty wouldn't know. आप अगर कहीं पे coaching ले भी रहे हो, your faculty also can't tell you. You only will know this. So from now to Tuesday, you need to keep practicing mocks and figure out that what is the sequence of sections that is maximizing your attempts and your marks. That will give you the answer to your question. But there is no fixed rule कि ये पहले attempt करो, ये last में attempt करो. Okay, Meghna's question is give tips to solve LR puzzles quickly. Meghna, this is a very, very vast area because LR, out of the 75 questions, you'll have 30 on various kinds of arrangements. You'll have 10 on input-output tracing. You'll probably have another 5 on sentence coding. Then you might have Venn diagrams. You'll have something on cubes possibly. Then you'll have a lot of other questions on coded inequalities and those types. So one is you need within the paper you need to identify which is the easiest set or which are the easy sets. One tip that I would give to all of you as far as arrangement questions are concerned, मैं एग्जाम में क्या करता हूँ, let's say there is a circular arrangement. Typically the IBPS people give the clues in such a way that starting में there are 2 cases possible. Let's say they might say A is 2 places away from B or 3 places away from B. तो A और B के बीच में 2 लोग हैं. Which means depending on whether A is facing the center or facing outside, B can be on any one side. तो हम लोग क्या करते हैं, एक ही फिगर से शुरू करते हैं and then we start putting A/B, B/A, etc. What I do in the MHCET is I never start with one figure. I start with two figures. I don't assume कि इसमें एक केस ही बनेगा. मैं ऐसे ही मान के चलता हूँ कि MHCET का क्वेश्चन है तो सीधा सीधा इसमें दो केसेस बनने वाले हैं. So I start by making two figures on my rough sheet, and each clue I start filling in the two figures. I have experienced that in approximately the fourth or fifth clue, वहां तक पहुंचते पहुंचते एक फिगर डेफिनेटली एलिमिनेट हो जाता है. So now you are sure कि अभी इसमें मैं आगे बढ़ूं. That is typically how I do it. So you can take what you should do is don't try it directly in a mock. Take the mocks that you have attempted so far and take the arrangement questions that you see in those mocks और उसमें ये try करके देखो while solving the mock or while solving these questions again. And you can do it for all such arrangement questions, whether it is circular, whether it is people in one single line, people living on different floors of a building, people in two rows, rectangular arrangement, square arrangement, जितना भी है सब में ये applicable है. For input-output tracing questions, look at whether there has been one input given to you or every question has a different input. Secondly, look के input से लेके step 5, step 6 तक are the words and numbers remaining the same. If the words and numbers are remaining the same, it means कि pure rearrangement हो रहा है. तो अगर rearrangement है तो you just need to identify कि उसमें क्या pattern है. Whereas if the words and numbers are changing, then there's some operation going on, and that is slightly more difficult. So again, it's a case-to-case thing. In the exam, the operation question might be easier, but typically we've observed that the rearrangement questions are simpler than the operation questions. So these are some of the things that you should keep in mind. Shalaka's question is the first day, first slot most of the time difficult? Shalaka, nobody can say that. And please don't go with that assumption. Every year, I'll just give you a separate example. Every year in NMAT, I go and take the first day, first slot paper. I haven't seen that it is way difficult compared to the other slots. So ऐसा कोई fundamental rule नहीं है, ऐसा कोई thumb rule नहीं है. Typically, if it's just four slots across 2 days, they'll try and maintain a uniform difficulty level across the slots. हो सकता है you might have a specifically difficult section. वो हो सकता है. But the overall difficulty of the paper is more or less the same. Mandar says, I'm good at abstract. Should I attend it first? Of course, yes. If you're good, please go ahead and attempt it first. What should be the Mandar's question again? What should be the percentage accuracy for serious attempts? Mandar, when I say serious attempts, I say that if you've attempted 20, then you should be reasonably sure about your answer in approximately 18 questions out, 17 to 18 questions. So I consider 85 to 90% accuracy is good enough. उससे कम जाएगा then you are in trouble. Saurabh's question, if the paper is difficult, should we attempt less and aim for more accuracy? Of course, yes, Saurabh, but this is something you will come to know only when you see the actual paper. So yes, that is a basic rule that if you start seeing that this paper is tougher, then you know that every single mark is going to be worth it. So then question selection is critical, identifying the sitters is critical, and then focus hardcore on accuracy. Because then every mark will decide the cutoff. जब बहुत, it's like a one day होता है, people can score 350 easily, तो किसी को 20-25 रन की वैल्यू नहीं होती. But if you are playing a one day on a tricky pitch where you know that 230 is a difficult score, so every 5 runs or every 10 runs also become critical. That is how it works. Sneha's question, how to prepare for VARC? I'm not confident in this section. So Sneha, as I said, you don't need to solve this entire section. You need to focus on the 30 simplest questions in this section. Typically what you should practice, and because you feel you're not very good, I'll tell you, you can practice improving your score in close passages, jumbled sentences, RCs, fill in the blanks, mark the error, vocabulary. If you do this much, I can assure you 25 से 30 मार्क का आप अटेम्प्ट अच्छे से कर पाओगे. Then the other question types you can always look at in the exam and take a call कि मैं कितना अच्छी तरह करना चाहती हूँ. But these many marks I can guarantee you. Nisar's question is, are there any specific types which are genuinely tough, not worth wasting time? Nisar, the example that you gave, circular with family, is what I would have also given. I attempted mostly as a challenge. But yes, in the exam, the other arrangement questions are actually easier. 2 rows, 1 row, the matrix type arrangement, floor arrangement, all that is easier. So I typically, as a student, I wouldn't attempt circular if I saw people sitting in out, because it really complicates things. Or I wouldn't attempt circular if I saw people with family relations. So that is a personal call, but yes, these are 1 or 2 question types that I would not touch too much. Satyam's question is, what is the level of puzzles and arrangements in CET? Satyam, it is difficult because they are all IBPS bank level questions, and IBPS has really difficult arrangement questions. So you can go and take our mocks, you can go and look at our bank arrangement ka practice, and I would say it is a difficult thing, but you can practice and learn out of it. Kushali's question, how many mocks should I give in these remaining days? Kushali, never more than 1 mock per day, because you need the remaining time to analyze the mock and revise it. Your last mock should be 48 hours before the exam. Uske baad please mock mat dena. Sridhar, you asked this question again, I'll answer it again. Your answer marked for review will be considered for evaluation. Darshan, okay, quant mein, if you're scoring low, Darshan, then break up your quant preparation into 3 parts. 15 to 20 questions of DI. See what is the score you're getting there and try to get maximum marks in that area. 10 marks of data sufficiency and quantitative comparison. See how good you are at practicing that. If you are comfortable, you can get easy marks there. Approximately 20 to 25 marks of pure quant. Within that, you will need to note what are the chapters you're most comfortable. In the exam, you'll need to search for those chapters, answer those questions. That is typically what you'll need to do. Karthik, there are no sectional cutoffs. As far as I know, no real sectional cutoffs. Ashish, my accuracy in VA is the least. Any tip for that? Ashish, it's a very generic statement because you need to tell me within VA where are you weak? Is it in vocabulary based questions? Is it grammar based questions? Reading, fill in the blanks, etc. But again, once you look at 3 to 4 mocks that you've practiced and start analyzing the trend, ke kaun se type of questions when you go wrong, we'll be able to arrive at a better diagnosis. Deepak, what do you think will be the cutoff for the top 3 colleges? Frankly, Deepak, I don't know, and I'm not going to guess this because nobody knows what the difficulty level of the exam is. So I don't want to, either give people false hope or scare people. Let's not get into this. Same question from Avinash. Avinash, मत फोकस करो यार इस बात पे कि मेरा स्कोर टेस्ट फंडा मॉक में कितना आना चाहिए फॉर टॉप 7. Generally, I would say a score of 130 is good enough in any MHCET. But then everything depends on the difficulty level of that paper. Meeti's question is the difficulty level same as CMAT? No, Meeti. 2-3 years back, yes, it used to be similar. Today, MHCET is definitely, I would say, 50% more difficult than CMAT. Definitely. Avinash, I have not practiced logical puzzle and usually leave all of them. Is that a good strategy or should I practice these questions? Avinash, you should practice these questions. I don't want to scare you, but LR is 75 questions out of 200. That's a significant percentage. Secondly, when you say that ये एक चीज मुझे totally नहीं आती, you are risking yourself based on 3 sections. तो अगर उस दिन तुम्हारे पेपर में verbal या quant बहुत ज़्यादा tough आ गया, then you're dead. So you need to have some backup even in your weakest section. Look at the last 2-3 mocks that you have taken and see कि कौन से LR के questions थे जो आप attempt कर सकते थे, and try to master those questions. Avinash, I'm scoring 100 in test funda mocks. Which college can I expect? Avinash, I don't know. We don't know the cutoffs for this year. Last year जैसा पेपर रहा तो this score corresponds to 120, 125. 120, 125 will probably get the moderate colleges. So the Chetnas and the IESs and maybe some course of Wellinger, etc. But it is not a guarantee. Yaar. This year the paper might be easier. This year the paper might be tougher. I don't know. Okay. Kushali's question is how many marks in quants can be considered good? Kushali, that depends on your personal strength in that area. But generally, I would say target 30 to 35 marks at the very least अगर तुमको total 130 तक जाना है. If you are strong in quant, you can easily crack 45. Quant tough नहीं होता, conceptually tough नहीं होता. If you're good in quant, mentally target 40 to 45, you'll end up somewhere around 38. But 40 जा सकता है. So that is something I can guarantee. Meeti's question is running an eye on questions initially won't waste time. Meeti, it will waste some time, but let me ask you a counter question. What if LR में the last 10 questions are the simplest and you didn't look at those questions and when you saw them you realized अरे मैं इस पे 4 मिनट निकालती तो मेरे को easily 5 मार्क आ जाते. What will you do in that case? You'll have to mark tukkas. So what could have been a guaranteed 10 marks would now become a possible 3 to 4 marks. That is where I'm saying very quickly glance through a section and at least get an understanding of what the question types are. And then try to figure out, okay, if I attempt this, ये question मैं definitely first iteration में attempt कर सकती हूँ. Then once I do this in say half an hour, I can probably attempt these in the next half an hour, etc. Personal call and advice as a senior would be look at all the questions. If you are not comfortable, fine, don't do it. But generally, I would say it is something that should be done. Mandar's question is genuine attempt should be directly marked as save and next, while tukka should be marked for good, mark for yeah. You can do that, Mandar. It's not a bad strategy. If I'm confident about a question, I would mark save and next. आगे जाके वापस इसको देखने का time waste क्यों करूं? I'll start getting those marks in my bag. If I'm partially sure about a question, I would mark it as mark for review and move on. आगे जाके I can come back. So I appreciate your strategy. I agree with it. Nisarg, how many mocks in this week? I would say one per day up to Thursday or Friday, whichever is 48 hours before your actual mock. So if you're on Saturday, तो Thursday खत्म करो. If you are on Sunday like me, तो Friday खत्म करो. Saurabh, my score is 90 from 5 mocks. How do I increase it? Saurabh, you'll need to give me a lot more details as to what is the sectional score, what is the sectional number of attempts, what time you are placing. Then I'll be able to give you a better diagnosis on this. Shalaka's question is, can we expect floor or linear arrangement with vacant floor seats? Yes, you can. And floor has become one of the most favorite areas of IBPS people as far as all their bank exams are concerned. So floor arrangement is something they're really in love with. You can expect a set where you have 7-8 people living on 8 to 9 floors. One floor is vacant. Plus each person is from a different city or profession. But I would say if you get floor, consider yourself lucky because बहुत easy होते हैं. You need to just write down the floor numbers one below the other, start placing people. Floor versus circular is a no contest. Always attempt floor if you are comparing it with circular. Meghna, how to increase speed in DI? Meghna, the trick to do that is to master concepts of ratios, percentages, percentage growth, fraction to percentage conversion, percentage to fraction conversion, understanding the how to calculate 10%, 1%, 0.1%, etc. of any given number. Because all these questions that you often have concepts of iska sum lena hai, uska average lena hai, etc. So you need to be good at those concepts. That will help you in TI. Mandar's question is, the IBPS interface has mark for review or mark for review and next? Mandar, I don't completely remember, but I think they have a mark for review. I would say look at the DTE interface. They have interface as in the notification. They've given all the details very clearly. I just read it last week and it's very, very unambiguous. So एक बार देख लीजिए उसको. Okay, Rohit's question, no sectional cutoff. How many do you attempt in abstract? I attempt whatever clicks to me at first glance. Abstract mein, I always keep 45 seconds to 1 minute for each question. पहले झटके में मुझे क्लिक हो गया तो मैं अटेम्प्ट करता हूँ, वरना I leave it for तुक्कास. I don't like attempting abstract at the exam level. You can attempt, you will be able to attempt 10 odd questions in abstract easily. उसके ऊपर का depends on your interest and comfort level. Sanket, I answered a lot of people. How many mocks in the last week? I would say 1 per day up to Thursday. Never more than 1 per day. Sampada, is there any point in working on vocabulary? I would say don't do that. Rather, practice more of mocks. Prachi's question is how to avoid silly errors in logic, especially in arrangements and caselets. Prachi, it will come with practice. As I said, in arrangements, okay, Prachi has a valid question, how to avoid silly errors in arrangements. Guys, all of you believe that MHCET, because it's a speed test, मुझे सब कुछ बहुत जल्दी करना है. Don't do that. Arrangement is a 7-8 question का thing. You calculate it this way, अगर आप मैथ्स का 8 क्वेश्चन करते हो और हर क्वेश्चन पे 1.5 मिनट डालते हो, तो how many minutes are you putting for 8 questions? 12 minutes. Now, if I have a 7-8 minute ka set in arrangements and I look at the same calculation, I can easily allocate 12 to 14 minutes for it because I'm assured of those marks. So start by making 2 figures, start filling up those figures. You don't need to write the solution. Start by filling up all those figures, then you'll be able to answer the questions quickly. That will also help you avoid silly errors. And it will require practice. अगर आपको ये 2 figure approach करना है तो start practicing it today, not on the actual exam day or not in the mock. Practice it with your past mocks. Okay, so guys, I think I have attempted most of the questions here. There are still questions popping up, but I believe I have run out of time. So in case you guys have more questions, I would say please send them to support@testfunda over the weekend. I'll be back in office on Monday, so I'll try and answer them as far as possible on Monday. Okay. Apart from that, if you have any doubts, of course, I'm available here in office, so you can send these questions, I'll answer them. But more or less what I've said today covers most of these doubts. I'll just recap things very quickly so that people have a broad idea of things. 70 minutes for LR, 25 minutes for quant. So roughly 1.5 hours for LR and quant. Roughly 45 minutes for English and abstract, 15 minutes for Tukka. That is time allocation. In terms of attempts, I try and target 150 to 160 serious attempts. When I say 150 serious attempts, it means questions where I feel I have a 90% chance of getting the question right. Tukkas are blind tukkas. My call is to focus more on serious attempts rather than marks in your mocks, not in the exam, in your mocks. Order of sections, totally up to you. Please practice the order right now over the next 3-4 days. By Tuesday, have a clear strategy in terms of what order you want to attempt. For each section, please scan the test or that section very quickly in around 3 minutes or so, 3 to 4 minutes. The time that you waste or spend there will be useful later. Typically, MHCET has this trick of putting some tough questions right at the end. So be prepared for that. Whatever slot you guys are in, do not try and compare it with the other slots, whether on Saturday, whether on Sunday. It is out of your control. You cannot do anything about it. Focus only on your performance. Things will get normalized. Things will get standardized. Okay. Do not leave any section. For example, I'm seeing here some questions where Prachi is saying I leave DI. Somebody else came and said I leave LR. Please don't do all that. Practice at least a few questions from those areas. For example, if Prachi is leaving DI, then what if the other quant questions are tough? Then how will you gain marks in quant? That is my question to you. So कोई भी area को totally मत छोड़ दो. Keep practicing that. What if there are two easy sets in say DI or LR or RC, whatever it is. So don't leave anyone that ये मैं देखूंगा ही नहीं या देखूंगी ही नहीं. There's one question that I'll definitely answer here. Abhijit's question was, if there is a twist this year's CET as well, what would be the areas where IBPS can stump us? I would say arrangements, obviously, because it's difficult. I would personally expect the input-output tracing to be more difficult compared to earlier years, because that is the trend in the IBPS paper. I would also expect maybe, I'm not trying to scare you guys, but I would expect the syllogisms to be new, because that is what we saw in IBPS last year. English was easy. Now that you are saying this, I would say एक बार CAT में है ना ये आता है jumbled sentences आता है जिसमें एक sentence out of context है. Means you have 5 sentences given, 4 of them are in a sequence, 1 is out of the sequence and can be rejected. That is typically a CAT question. Last year's IBPS PO paper had this question. 5 का set था. I'm not saying कि CT में आएगा ही. Definitely not. मैं ये नहीं बोल रहा हूँ. But because IBPS में आया था, एक बार आप उसको कोशिश कर सकते हो. वो भी practice करना. Maths में no real surprises. DI no real surprises. English apart from this one thing. So that's about it. Okay. So these are my inputs for MHCET to all of you. We still have 1 week. So if somebody is in real deep trouble, कुछ issue है, feel free to reach me. I'll give you a confidence booster. I'll sort of guide you. No worries. Okay. You can practice our mocks. If you have our mocks and you have run out of mocks to practice, you can even look at some of our bank questions and bank material and practice more RC questions from there. So all of that is available for you. Fine. So guys, wish you all the best for MHCET. Do well and get the best possible result. I hope to see some of you becoming my juniors at JBIMS. Not immediate juniors. I'll be like long back ka super senior. But still, I want to see you guys come to JB. So wish you all the best. I'm available for help. Fine. Have a nice day. Thank you.